Hi, I'm Charlie Collins, and this is the Donegal Sport Hub Donegal Daily Championship Podcast.
And you're very welcome again to our podcast, looking at the Michael Murphy Sports and Leisure Championship, of course. Plenty of good action gone at the weekend and plenty to look forward to this weekend. And Danny O'Donnell and John Harron are with me as usual. Many thanks to our sponsor, Donaf Construction in Boston, Massachusetts, and to Paul Freed for his support. It's much appreciated, Paul. Thank you. Good afternoon, lads.
Good afternoon, Charlie.
Hey, Charlie.
Good to have you on board here on a lovely day. And let's briefly look back at what happened, because I'm more interested in looking forward to what's going to happen. But briefly, Danny, no surprises really in the senior championship at the weekend?
No, all went, I suppose, according to plan. Although I thought I predicted, I think John might have got them all right. I predicted Killybegs to beat Four Masters, but in fairness to Four Masters, that's a massive win for them to get them into a quarter final. And it just continues that progression that they've been showing in the last couple of years. I think a defeat against Killybegs might have knocked them back a wee bit, but in a Dour battle, which we thought it would be, they came out on top. So massive credit to Four Masters back in the quarter final again. I was at the Gweedore McCool's game on Sunday. Very impressed with Gweedore on the day.
Very impressed. I was there too, Danny.
I thought they blitzed McCool's in the first 5 minutes. I think the first 4 kickouts, they won them. They got 3 points off those first 4.
McCool's never really recovered after that start, did they?
See, when you go in, I know they weren't exactly underdogs, but you did going to get a good start against a team like Gweedore. If they get their tails up early, they could crucify you very quickly. And like I thought, last year we talked about Oisin Gallen's performance in that game. I thought Darragh Beale put in a fantastic performance on the weekend. And Donald McGillivray as well, middle of the field, 2 county men. Yeah. They showed that they were county men at the weekend. Really impressive.
And Gary McFadden did a good marking job.
Gary McFadden was all over Oisin Gallen, and he can do that. He has that ability. But I thought just overall Gweedore's intensity, the way they approached the game, they chased down McCool's from the very first whistle. There was no sitting back. There was no let McCool settle. It was just, we're going to go at you and see what you have, and won it very comfortably in the end. Yeah. You know.
John, happy enough with it?
Charlie, I think I might have predicted maybe Maxie might have got one over on Dunlow. I'm not sure. I thought that Downing's might, but it was close. It was close.
I knew he wouldn't get them all right.
Yeah, exactly, my hand, Danny. So no, I thought Downing's might run Dunlow close, but in fair play to Dunlow, they got the job done. Charlie, in that stage of the championship, it's about winning and getting over the line. I suppose St. Julian's weren't overly impressive against Ardra, but I think we're always going to win. I think they were 1-50 with the bookies, so there's never going to be an upset there. Maybe St. Julian's maybe could have played a wee bit better, maybe got a few more scores, but I think they'll be happy enough, Charlie, the way they got through it, and no injuries, and got Dale O'Donnell back on the pitch, things like that there. No more than what Danny was saying, Charlie, about the Gweedore game, and O'Donnell Park, I was at it, and after 3 minutes you could just see that the intensity was totally different, and McCool's were going to struggle.
The pressing they were doing was
pushing up the kick out. The McCool's goalkeeper, they didn't seem to know what to do, Charlie. Very, either go long, because they were pushing up in the kick out, and they should have just had a plan B, to boot it out the middle and fight for it, and then over relying on Oisin Gallen. And I suppose when the game's going away from you, every wee mistake is punished, and they kept looking for him and trying to get the ball up to him, and the pass would break down maybe 2 or 3 passes before they probably wanted to get to him. Yeah. And then, Gweedore.
And he was forced to come into areas of field that you don't really want to see him.
You don't want to see him out past the 45, Charlie, with a green line in front of him, with Gweedore men, and he was never going to get through them. And as Danny says, very impressed with Gweedore, Charlie. I thought, they weren't afraid to hump the ball in, and sometimes there were accurate passes where they were playing for the mark, which worked a few times, and then just before half time, someone, I think it might have been Darragh Beale, just booted one in, and Ethan Harkin caught it on the 14-yard line, with the cornerback 2 yards behind him. Too easy, Charlie, at that level, and Gweedore took all their opportunities, and even at the start of the second half, a big high ball in, bounced over the bar, wee things like that, and you just knew it wasn't going to be McCool's day. So I was impressed with Gweedore, Charlie, and I don't know if any of us was at the Dunlow Downing's games, but Dunlow got the. No,
I was seeing some of that. We were playing after that, but that was an instant game. The sending off of Ronan Gallagher, who's up at the county panel, was significant. He's
big blow to Downing's.
Big blow, and they were the conditions were tough, and they were well set up, and Dunlow were well set up, and the bits and pieces I saw was a physical battle. Yeah, and I think Ronan was a wee bit unlucky in the sense he went high on one of the corners at one stage with a couple of heavy hits just before that were yellows, but maybe the referee's patience went on that one, and 2-point-1 for Dunlow in the end, but Dunlow will be happy with that. It's all about winning, getting to the quarter final. Yeah. But Downing's, I suppose they'll be disappointed they lost, but they'll be happy enough with their championship. They got to that preliminary quarter final and a bit unlucky, stayed out of relegation and everything else. Yeah. But going back to Gweedore, what Gweedore showed at the weekend as well, Charlie, we saw them against St. Eunan's, and we saw them playing 15 behind the ball, a very defensive game plan, and hitting Eunice the break. We saw a different game plan completely against McCool's.
I thought they were much better on Sunday than they were against St Eunice.
Oh, yeah, much more dynamic, and even their forward play in that first half, quick hands, quick movement. The dynamic forward line,
And you would wonder, the week before, it was 6-5 against St Michael's, and they had 3 points at one stage, and then within 2 minutes they had 3 points against Macood.
Right.
And as Danny says, although Macood's had everyone back, Charlie, you can have everyone back, but if they're not putting pressure on the ball, and the other team, which were slick through the hands, men coming off the shoulder, all they needed was a yard of space and a kick from outside the D, some great scores. So they took their chances and they were clinical and looked impressive.
Yeah. We talked last week about the merits of the championship and the way it's run. Interestingly, the top 8 from the league have qualified for the quarter-finals. So the teams that finished 5th to 8th, all won their games last weekend.
Well, that's good, Charlie, because it rewards. It just shows you that the league table is a good indicator of form.
Yeah.
So the team that finished 12th, for example, might have sneaked in by a point. I think made likes of Downings.
Yeah.
Would you want to say a team finishing 11th or 12th beating the team that finished 5th?
Yeah.
They shouldn't probably win that game, and it didn't happen. Dundalk won it, and Eunice beat the next team down, and Fort Masters beat Cleveeggs, and so on.
Yeah. So it's all left us now with the quarter-final draw, and the first 2 names out of the hat, John, caused a bit of a stir in O'Donnell Park.
Sure, Frankie, as usual, Charlie, never does us any favours.
You couldn't depend on him.
Wee Frankie's a great man.
I'm going to leave that one to the last, actually, Danny. So I'll start with Dunlow and Glenswilly. I was just looking at their progress so far in the championship. Some people would say they've had a fairly relatively easy run, and I know it's always dangerous to say that about clubs, but you have to win the games. But they haven't come up against too many of the big guns, either of the two of them. So a big 50-50 game there in Falcara on Saturday.
Yeah, it probably is in one sense. I would edge towards Glenswilly based on the Michael Murphy factor, based on, I think even Gary McDade said himself, they were a championship team. They had that week off where they can sit back and analyse Dunlow to the nth degree. I'm sure they've done that.
Oh, yeah.
Now, the profile of the teams are slightly different. Like Glenswilly have that mix of youth and experience. And then you've got lads, we didn't mention last week, like Keelan Dunleavy and Young Kildee up top. So they have good players throughout the field. Dunlow's profile is very much a case where they're all sort of the one age group. And they've all come up together and they've all won games together, whether it be intermediate championship, now into senior championship. So they're a very strong unit.
And they're battle hardened.
I watched them play Glenswilly in a league game last year out in the Glen, and they got stuck into each other.
Yeah.
Like Dunlow don't mind the physical stakes, and they might have a stronger physical profile than Glenswilly in an overall context. Like Glenswilly have some younger lads who are maybe not that well conditioned yet because of their age, but the Dunlow are strong. They're physically strong. Carl McGee, the Currans, big Green at full forward, Danny Rogers, big Ryan Connors.
Yeah.
So they'll in a pitch like Falcara where when it make it a wee bit tight at times, they'll not shirk from that part of the game. But I still think a Michael Murphy, a Gary McFadden, that experience at quarter-final stage might be enough for Glenswilly. And it will be a battle, but I would have a fancy for Glenswilly.
Yeah. What do you think, John?
You'd probably fancy Glenswilly, Charlie, and I presume the bookies have them favourites. But as Danny said, it won't be easy. Dunlow are a decent team, and they'll be happy enough for the draw because they've avoided, say, Kilcar, St Eunice, Gito, so they'll be happy too. They'll be going and thinking we have a chance here, boys. It's not one of the
both teams will feel that way.
Glenswilly will definitely be happy, but I think Dunlow will be happy enough for the draw too because it's not one of the big four. So they'll have a good chance, Charlie. It's just it's how they can play, and it's not all about marking Michael Murphy. It's a big part of it, surely. But if you watch them, and I watched Glenswilly against Macood, it's the boys out the field that are going to hit the crossfield diagonal ball. Like Murphy's plays on to the left of the goal. So if he catches it, he's coming on to his right foot. Like you can telegraph it, but knowing what's going to happen and then do well. Dunlow have to have a plan, Charlie, for out the field to block the ball coming in because Glenswilly are not afraid to kick it in, and you can see it. I watched them against Macood closely. They'll come up, they'll go over and back once or twice, and then some man all he needs is a half a yard, and he'll drive it across the pitch, a diagonal ball into Murphy, and it causes consternation. If he doesn't catch it, he'll break it. The fullback could fire him, Charlie. You know what I mean? The referees are, they're prone to giving Michael frees. I think he gets that off referees, which is probably he does take a lot of attention. So we won't hold that against him. But sometimes he can hold the hand out and keep the man off, and sometimes the referee might give him a free for that. But Glenswilly, Charlie, they have their tails up. They're confident. They'll fancy beating Dunlow, and I think, Charlie, they fancy themselves to have a real shot at the championship.
Yeah. Interesting, Danny, you said about a championship team, and that's been their focus really over the last number of years, hasn't it? They haven't worried too much about the league staying up or going down or whatever.
Yeah, and look, that's the mantra they have, and because they've won 3 championships in recent memory, then they deserve to take that, to say that about themselves. But I think these matchups the weekend are interesting. Mark Corrin has had a very good year with Donegal, probably unlucky to lose his place maybe later on in the championship. Yeah. Will he match up against Michael Murphy? Or will they leave it to one of the bigger, stronger lads? There's an Aaron Ward lad in there, maybe could take him. That'll be an interesting matchup. Dunloe, we know, have good forwards, and they have a big, strong, physical full forward in Conor Green.
Yeah.
Do Glenswilly have that physical full back to compete with him, or they go with numbers behind the ball and try and put pressure on the ball? I think it'll be very interesting to see how those matchups play out. But people like Gary McFadden and Keelan Kelly are kind of the unsung heroes of that Glenswilly team. Like Keelan Kelly never wastes the ball, no matter where he is on the field, and he keeps the whole thing ticking. And it's the likes of Michael Murphy and Copper then to come on the end of moves. But them young lads like the Owen Scotts, the Dunleavys, they'll drive you up the field. I think Dunloe have players that can curb a lot of that. And then it might come down to then who is the star player on the field, who's the X-Factor player. And we've always said it's Michael Murphy. And I don't see that changing too much. Michael Murphy's still going to have a big part to play in this championship.
And things like free kicks, Cherry, from far out, 45,
things.
Free kicks out around the 45, like you can nearly notch them up before Murphy steps up, which is a massive thing.
Yeah. Now Dunloe played in Fulcara last week.
Yeah.
Yes.
That won't do them any harm.
And they played Gidor there last year in that quarter final. And it was a real battle, and they stood up well to Gidor, just maybe lacked a wee bit on the day, but Dunloe are going to go on, Terry, full of confidence and think that, with Thrall Glenswilly, not one of the big 4, we have a real chance here, boys, to get to the semi-final. So, it'll be closer maybe than people think.
Interesting one. Okay. We'll get your views on who'll win it now, John.
Yeah, Glenswilly.
Danny?
I think Glenswilly, yeah.
All right, then. Kilcara against St Michael's. St Michael's unbeaten. Did well, a couple of tight games, they won it. Kilcara started poorly, very short of players against St Eunice, but momentum has gathered since, John, so tough test for St Michael's, particularly with Michael Langan.
Well, Terry, that's the talking point of this tie. Like, if Michael Langan was there, you give St Michael's a real chance. It's just heartbreaking for them. Like, if I was a St Michael's supporter or St Michael's player, Terry, you'd just be gutted.
Yeah.
Especially if you're training all year and you've had a good season and he's your star man and he's just the fulcrum of the team, Cherry, the heartbeat of the team. He can win you a game when maybe you're not expecting it, and he won't be there. Are we sure he's not there?
Well, the word was he was going away,
yeah,
and he wouldn't be there for the quarterfinals. Yeah. Now, whether that's changed, I haven't heard anything to the contrary, but
I haven't heard anything.
So we'll take it that he's not going to be there, Cherry, which is a big disappointment for St Michael's, and it really tips the scales towards Kilcar. As you say, Kilcar were poor against St Eunice, but they were missing 4 of their best players: Ryan McHugh, Big Eamon McGinley at midfield, one of the McLeans, a couple others. So they're going to be a different team, Cherry. And it's come back. We talk about the big 4 every year and every week. It'll come back to, can one of the other teams knock out one of the big 4? I know it's the quarterfinals. So can St Michael's knock Kilcar out of the championship? And without Michael Langan, Cherry, I think it's going to be very difficult for them. They probably will make it hard. They'll make it difficult. They had a brilliant result to go to Gidor and beat Gidor.
Yeah.
So St Michael's have plenty of form coming into Cherry. It's just the Michael Langan thing for me. It's going to make it very difficult for them.
Because they won that game against Dunloe in very bad conditions down at the bridge, but they still won it.
They were well up at half time, so Dunloe had the one in the second half, came right back in it. But when it came to Cherry at the end, who stepped up? Michael Langan with a point to win it 9-8. So it's just a massive loss, Cherry, and I think Kilcar, with them players back, a bit of confidence, Cherry. They've good enough forwards: Paddy McBurty, Ryan McHugh, Owen McHugh, plenty of good players still there, and I just think they'll have, they'll get over the line against St Michael's.
Danny?
You'd probably think, based on the players that Kilcar have, that they will have enough for St Michael's, but St Michael's are no duds, Charlie. You don't win 4 championship matches without being a good team. You don't go to Margathlin and win a tight battle without being a good team. And I do take John's point, the Michael Langan factor is absolutely huge. But that can have 1 or 2 effects on a group. It can either galvanise you or it can deflate you. So I would imagine the St Michael's psyche will be, we can do this without Michael.
Yeah.
We're not a one-man team. Somebody else can step up to the mark. And they do have good players, and they do have experienced players in through the group. Daniel McLaughlin's off the bench, Anthony McFadden was off the bench, Andrew Kelly's still out there, Martin McElhinney's still there, Eddie O'Reilly, Carlos O'Reilly, Colin McFadden's a good player. So they don't lack for players, and they're going to be really well structured. And this is the type of game that Kilcar probably won't like. Kilcar like games to be a wee bit open, where they can use their pace and they can use their counter-attack. St Michael's will absolutely, in my opinion, drop off the kick out. I think they'll sit behind the 45 and they'll say to Kilcar, you come into us and see, can you do your stuff?
Yeah.
And that will then depend on Ryan McHugh, Owen McHugh, Steve McBurty, and particularly Pat McBurty. But Liam Paul Ferry will probably pick up Pat McBurty and stay fairly tight to him. So if they can curb Pat McBurty, have they then got the ability to get up the pitch on the counter attack? They probably feel they have. They won't look for a high scoring game.
Will they score enough? Well,
the way they'll look at it is, we won't need to score enough if we do our job defensively.
At the back,
if they can keep Kilcar to 7 or 8 points, which would be a massive achievement, then they'll feel they can nick something the other end. I think it's a tricky tie for Kilcar. They've been sitting a couple of weeks with no game. The last competitive game was at Cloughaneely, which wasn't really that competitive on the scoreline. The Union's result, I know they're missing men, but they didn't really produce much on that day. So, but I always thought going into this championship, Kilcar were going to be dangerous. They're celebrating their 100-year anniversary.
That's right.
They won the All-Ireland Gilt Act.
With a full squad, they're as good as anybody.
Well, a full squad, they're as good as anybody. I think it's going to be tricky, and I think St Michael's will make it awkward. The game is in Glenties. Right? Yeah. So, but look, based on the players that Kilcar have, and if they deliver what we expect them to deliver, then Kilcar should kick enough points. I don't know if they'll get goals. I don't think St Michael's will concede goals. I think they'll still kick enough points with Pat McBurty on the field, Kieran McGinley, Stephen McBurty, Ryan McHugh to get them over the line.
Agree, Sean?
I do, Charlie. I just think they'll have more. I think like Paddy McBurty, it's easier said than done to curb him. Can Liam Paul Ferry curb him? Like it's easier said than done. I just think Kilcar will get too many scores, Charlie. They'll just have a wee bit too much quality in that kicking points from distance or kicking them from outside the D. They'll be quick through the hands. They'll make space, even though St Michael's have everyone back. And for me, Terry, Kilcar like about 2 or 3 points.
Okay. Opening day of the championship, Danny, Four Masters beat Gweedore, which surprised some people. I know they were at home and all that, but people expected Gweedore to win. They've made it through to the quarterfinals. They're going to play Gweedore again. But a big incentive for Gweedore to overturn that last one, and they've improved since, obviously.
Yeah, and I think Gweedore will relish this tie. I think when they looked at the quarterfinals and who they might have got, I think they might have quietly fancied Four Masters just for that revenge factor.
Yeah.
They feel they probably didn't perform to their level up at Four Masters.
McCool Park, big pitch.
McCool Park, the way they played the last day. But Four Masters, as we know, are dogged, they're athletic, they're fit, they're organised, and they'll make it difficult for Gweedore. But what I watched on Sunday in O'Donnell Park, I saw a team that had a bit about them. A bit about
We're on
them.
A mission.
Yeah, and as I said earlier on, they can now work, like, Four Masters will probably play quite defensively. Gweedore have no problem doing the same thing. They did it against St Eunan's. So Gweedore can go from game plan, switch game plans during games, take whatever approach they want. I just think they might have enough in Darrell Boyle, Donal McBride, and some of their forwards. I think Gary McFadden will pick up Senan Carr. Senan Carr will do well to get the better.
He's scoring a lot of goals.
He's scoring a lot of goals, but Gary McFadden has quite a lot of good forwards over the years, and Senan Carr is still a young lad learning his trade. Now, I think you mentioned McCool Park. I think that's significant as well. It's a big venue, it's a big pitch.
Yeah.
Gweedore have a good athletic players. Aidan Branham breaks hard for number 2 all the time. They're going to have to track him. I think Gweedore is the perfect game for them because they got that shock in that first game against Four Masters. But on the other side of the coin, Four Masters won't fear Gweedore.
No.
They've beaten them before. They'll be believing they can go out and beat them again.
Yeah.
But they will look to frustrate Gweedore first and then try and hit them in the counter attack.
The thing about Gweedore, Terry, probably is what Gweedore is going to show up. Is it the Gweedore that beat St Eunan's in O'Donnell Park, or the one that went to Mahergallen at home and only scored 5 points against St Michael's, then comes back and blows McCool's out of the water in the preliminary quarter final? So Gweedore will be talked up this week, Cherry, rightly so, after the performance last week. They'll go into it with a load of confidence. Will they go in underestimating Four Masters, even though Four Masters have beaten them earlier in the year? But it's still one of these new teams on the block trying to knock one of the big four out. And will Gweedore be sitting down in Mahergallen this week saying, we'll beat these boys? They were lucky once.
Ronan and Francie will hardly allow that.
Well, they'll try not to, Cherry, but human nature is that players sometimes get it into their head, you know what I mean? And the mindset mightn't be right. We're only speculating here, Cherry. That's what we're here to do, is give our opinion. Everyone has one. And they might agree or not. But, you're looking for things that could happen or might happen. So, Four Masters will be hoping that Gweedore are a wee bit cocky. Maybe we underestimate.
I don't see that coming. No, I don't see it coming. even the way they played on Sunday against McCool's, I thought was a reaction to losing at home to St Michael's. And Ronan said a couple of times that they were angry losing a championship match at home. They definitely would have been angry losing their opening championship match against a young and up and coming Four Masters team, because that put them under pressure going into the rest of the championship.
It sure did.
So I think they'll want to go out and make a statement against Four Masters. Never mind it being a quarter final. I think they'll want to say they're not up and coming yet. We're established. We're here, and you still aren't good enough to beat us.
Yeah. You would think of like Gidor, Charlie, at the same time got to county final last year, got to the league final this year, bet St Eunan's in O'Donnell Park in the championship. A lot of pedigree, far more than this young Four Masters team who are coming. This is maybe their maybe first real year in the big time, and they're coping very well, Charlie. You have to say, they've passed a lot of tests that's been put to them. Is this a step too high up the ladder for them? We'll find out. We'll find out at the weekend, but I wouldn't rule Four Masters out, Charlie. I know we're on about the big pitch, but they're probably one of these teams that we don't know that much about.
Exactly,
Danny,
well, they have a lot of mobility, because I've watched a lot of them boys at underage in recent years, and they can get around the pitch.
But the way it goes with say the top four, that they've watched each other's last 10 years, inside out, upside down, video analysis. They know every player. They mightn't just know as much about Four Masters,
right.
or they haven't seen enough of them to know what their pattern of players or what their spoilers or what that. But they'll have bits and pieces, surely. Like that's the way it is. But you just don't know. Four Masters could pull something. They could just have something in them.
We would have played them in the league this year, obviously, and last year. They have a very mobile midfield. The Reid brothers are in there. And if they can compete with Donal McBride in the middle of the field, which they will because they have that athleticism, then they'll break even in there. The question is, how do they approach the game? Do they go after Gidor, for example? Go after Dahi Roberts' kick out, or they sit back behind the 45 and turn it a cagey game? That's a decision they have to make. Probably have made it by now at this stage.
I would think so.
And it's their approach. But because they have nothing to lose in one sense, they might decide, let's go after Gidor. Let's go at it. Nothing to lose.
It'd be great to see that, Charlie. That'd be a breath
of fresh air. Well, it's the half-4 game for a reason. People think it's going to be a good game, so,
Call it then.
You'd have to go for Gidor, Charlie. After
all that.
Well, you're just looking for something that maybe there might be a shock win for Masters, what they have to do to win. But you'd have to say, as the man says on another famous podcast, on all known facts, or all known form, it'll be Gidor.
Gidor,
all right. Now the big one, Niamh Conaill against St Eunan's, first two out of the hat in the draw on Sunday, and you could hear the buzz about the place. Danny, you were there when it happened. Neither of the two clubs would have wanted this at this particular stage, but somebody said to me earlier this week, before I came up here, no, it was yesterday, somebody said to me it's an ideal situation because they can win the championship on Sunday and not worry about what's coming afterwards. I don't think that's going to be the case.
No, I don't think so either, Charlie.
But you can see where he's coming from, because everybody's looking at the championship saying, well, there's only one of two winners.
Yeah, I think when that draw, as you said, was made on Sunday afternoon, there were people laughing, there were people going, oh my God, what a game. People going, geez, that's a bit early for them.
Yeah.
It's the tie of the championship, and it's going to be, I think losing a quarter final is almost worse than losing a final, because you haven't really got into the championship as such.
Yeah.
So somebody's season is over this weekend, and us in the middle of September. There's a lot at stake, Charlie. A lot at stake. Niamh Conaill going for 3 in a row, which they haven't done the last time they went for it. I think Ewan stopped them doing it.
Yeah.
They are definitely looking to get that 3 in a row. Looking into it, Charlie, everybody's talking about Eunice have to bring something different. But what different can you bring to a Niamh Conaill team that will? I mean, they might bring something different.
Well,
we don't know. Like Martin Regan's not going to be sitting the last 9 months twiddling his thumbs, waiting for St Eunice to do something different. So he's going to have his team.
Do they need to bring something different?
I think they do. I think what Eunice, from my opinion, on what Eunice need to do, and they did do it last year in the semi-final. They went after the Niamh Conaill kick out with a high press, but Niamh Conaill got the better of them on the breaking ball, which allowed Niamh Conaill to get a couple of scores and build that wee lead.
Yeah.
Remember, Eunice, I think, led 2-0, then went 4-2 to Niamh Conaill. Yeah. That was, so I think they will again go after Stephen McGrath's kickouts. I think they have to, because with the pace Eunice have all over the field, they want possession in the middle third or come up the half back line where they can get at a team quickly. And the best way of doing that is off a restart.
Yeah.
But if they lose that ball, they're going to be in the back foot. So they need to figure out, are they going to go for it or not? If they do go for it, they've got to win the breaking ball more times than Niamh Conaill do. And to me, the second thing they need to probably do is pull the trigger more often up front. Niamh Conaill's big strength last year, Charlie, if you think back on it, was winning the breaking ball, number one, off their own kick out. But they hit 3 or 4 points from around the 45 over the St Eunice blanket. So Eunice weren't doing that or didn't have the players to take that on. They need to have that courage this time, because that will still present itself New Connell will still sit with their 14 behind the 45, keep it nice and narrow. They'll allow Union's ball out wide, have Union's the players to step up, kick points from distance. That's going to be a big question. The one thing Union's do bring differently this year compared to last year is Pádraig Boyle's involved, the lad they signed from Clontibbert. He looks like a lad that will take somebody on and create the wee pockets of space for maybe a Niall O'Donnell or a Shane O'Donnell come the end of a move, or a young McGeehan. And I always found it very interesting this season to see Lee McMonigal back in his St Union's colours. Yeah. He is the one player that can survive in tight spaces. He done it in the past. I've seen him playing, I know it's junior and it's reserve, but a class player is still a class player. He can manoeuvre himself in tight spaces better than most forwards I've seen. And he will not be shy at pulling the trigger if he gets half a yard. Sure. And that could be the difference this time that wasn't there the last time. Yeah. But again, all we're going back on is evidence of what we've seen before. I'll discount the game early in the championship. I think a bit of shadow boxing. Yeah. So then you have to go back to what has happened the last 3 times or 4 times the teams have met, and it's been the same script. Union's quite safe possession-wise. New Connell's sitting in, been really difficult to break down, hitting on the counter-attack, winning the game by a point or 2. Yeah. That could very easily happen again this weekend.
John? Yeah, and on that, like, a lot of people within the club, Charlie, and people, observers would say, since Unions aren't scoring enough, and when they play Atlantic they can't score and afraid to shoot and all that there, which I would agree totally with, and I think they are shooting a bit more this year. But I also think, Charlie, defensively, at times, we haven't tuned in to what Niamh Conn do. And as Danny says, they do the same thing year in, year out, but they're very good at it. Kieran Thompson kicks big points from out the field. Yeah. Brendan McDyer will pull the trigger if he gets a chance. Ethan O'Donnell. Owen Doherty will kick that outside of the boot Jack ball and they'll go for it. So like St Unions, Terry, have to be tuned into that. Like, it's gone on too long now where they haven't been tuned into that and have been stood off and have given them boys free kicks, free shot from inside the 45, around the 45. They have to be on it, Charlie. They have to be on their toes. You can't be sitting back and letting them big shots come in, because it's, as I say, Terry, it's a recurrent pattern, and surely our boys that
and
this
they really
time,
lift the team this game. They
do, surely, Charlie, and Niamh Conn have been more. They'll gamble. They'll gamble more in them shots than St Unions over that period of time this last few years. So I think Danny's right. St Unions have to pull the trigger a lot more. You're not going to score, Charlie, if you don't shoot. No. If you shoot and it goes wide, well then fair enough. They might say you're outside the scoring zone or the percentages weren't there. But Jesus, Charlie, when we've seen our boys this last few years. Sometimes the amount of shots they've got off in games hasn't been enough. You're not going to win, so you have to shoot. So but
I think the point you make there is very important. See when the Connell do build attacks and Unions do drop off. Unions will drop off for definite, same as they will at times. Unions need to put more heat on the Niamh Conn player from not even the 45, from outside the 45, and look for that turnover to get your Kieran Moores up the field, to get your Shane O'Donnells up the field, and to get that counter attack going. Because if you sit in behind the 45 all day and wait for balls to either go wider over your bar, the ball's gone dead. You're not getting a counter attack, because Niamh Conn will drop off Sean Patton, and you just come with another slow attack, and it's going to be recycle this, recycle that, and they don't have a long ball option the same way Niamh Conn have with Charles McGuinness. So everything still points to, we know what Niamh Conn are going to bring, and we're wondering what the Unions might bring, and is it going to be any different to what they brought before?
And the other side of that too, Danny, is that you've made the point that is correct, that if Niamh Conn are leading, they can drop off Sean Patton's kick out. But if Niamh Conn are 2 points down 10 minutes into the second half, they can't continue to sit off and let Unions, because Unions will have the ball. That's very risky there. I think, Terry, when the team who's leading has possession, it's easier to kick a point when you're 2 points up than when you're 2 points down. St Unions could hold on to the ball. I know it might be slow down, but they could go over and back and hold on to it because they're 2 points up.
Oh, absolutely.
And give it to Niall O'Donnell in the right time, puts it over the bar, you're 3 up. You know what I mean? But if Niamh Conn are 2 points down and Sean Patton has a kick out, they'll have to push up and try, and then the Sean Patton kick out comes into play, which historically against Niamh Conn, Charlie, it hasn't really been effective, because Niamh Conn have had that lead, and Johnny says drop off the St Unions kick out, and then it's a slow build up from St Unions where Niamh Conn are sitting back and Niamh Conn are backing themselves,
protecting the D.
We'll turn them over, we'll hit them on the break, and that pattern has worked for them. So it's up to St Eunice to try and break that cycle.
The Connell have had a lot of goals in this championship, Charlie.
Yeah, they have.
You know, and big Charles McGuinness has been a big factor.
Yeah.
Now, he didn't get any minutes with the county, but he's been in that training environment all year. So even seeing him playing out in midfield for New Connell, Leo is still there, Andy Thompson's still there. They're all still there. Dermot Brick Malloy is still there. Big Dyer. So the experience is there. And it's going to be a question of this young, vibrant Unions team. Can they come and bring something different? But ultimately, Charlie, my read on it the last couple of seasons, in the big games, the New Connell big players deliver more consistently than St Eunice big players in big moments.
Yeah.
So until that changes, then the result might not necessarily change.
Yeah, they have to go man to man with Cian Thompson, and they have to nullify him, Charlie. You know, they can't let him.
Okay, but who's going to nullify? Darryl McGrew might pick him up.
Darryl McGrew might, or Kevin Keeley, or Owen Darling, or whoever it is. You know, but someone has to take it on, Charlie, because they can't. You know, a brilliant player, but you know, how long are they going to watch it?
Because he'd score himself and he'd create stuff.
He will, surely, Charlie. Brilliant player. So, like, you know, they have to.
Like we're talking a lot about St Eunice. Martin Regan is going to have his homework done to the nth degree on the St Eunice players. So you can imagine that. I mentioned Lee McMonigal. If Lee McMonigal starts this game, they're going to have somebody that's going to be on Lee McMonigal every step he takes.
Yeah.
Same with Pádraig Boyle, and they'll test his temperament. New man on the scene. Is he ready for this kind of stuff? They'll have men. They'll have Kieran Moore tracked. There's no doubt about that. That could be a Jack McKelvey or a Doherty. Or Finbar Roty's a new man on the scene. I seen him up the academy as an under 15. He's a serious bit of stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm not surprised that Jim tried to fast track him into the county setup. Neil Francis Boyle has broken into their team. So everybody's talking about what the units are going to bring. Neil Connell are not going to hear to wait to see what units are going to do. No. They're going to have their game plan, and they're going to stick to it, and they're going to bring intensity, and they're going to bring bite, and they know that it's absolutely all on the line. Their 3 in a row is on the line. Everything's on the line this Saturday.
But if you turn that on its head, Danny, surely to God, St Juniors are going to do the same, Charlie.
Yeah, exactly.
We have to see it. We have to see it. Like Kieran Moore, they cannot go out and be passengers in this game and not get involved and not put their stamp.
They have to be
no,
proactive,
you know, they can't say
it's all on the line, Charlie.
Yeah, it's all on the line. They can't go out and say, oh well, you know, Neil Francis Boyle or Jack McKelvey, he had a great game on me. I couldn't get away from him. You know, you can't let, you know, in your head you can't let that happen. You have to dominate him. So like, it's our boys, Terry, need to step it up big time. Like, you know, you know, I'm not saying we're putting pressure on them, but like, you can only go so long getting beat by the same team, you know, year in, year out, and
you have to change the script.
You have to change the script, Terry. And
let's call it, boys. Time. Let's call it, Danny.
Let's call it. Look, my read on it is, if Unions do something different and attack the game we would more than they did, yet they're more than able to do it.
Yeah.
But I have to go back to what I've seen before, and the script has been very, very similar for the last 5 times in championship meetings. It's been New Connell's doggedness, not just quality players.
Yeah.
Your Kieran Thompsons, your Jack McKelveys, your Dohertys, your Ethan O'Donnells, consistently stepping up year on year. And until they're stopped doing that, then you have to give them the verdict.
Get your vote, John.
You can't argue with what Charlie says or what Danny says, Charlie. But from my point of view, you know, our boys just have to do something different. You know, I had something in my head now; it's gone completely.
Who's the physically stronger team? If it goes into that high intensity open game on a nice Saturday evening.
Well, I think St Juniors have plenty of legs.
They've pace, but have they the physical strength?
Physical strength.
They probably do. Listen, this could be a crack. It should be. Hopefully a crack.
But they never are, unfortunately.
No,
they never are.
Could be 4-3.
There could be 4.
Well, if some team goes in the lead, particularly say St Eunice, if St Eunice went to a lead, you might find yourself into a better game of football. But if New Connell take a lead, it could be very similar to what we've seen before.
Yeah. But Charlie, I'm hoping St Juniors, like, I know the boys have put in a big effort and they put in a big effort, but this is the time. I know what I was going to say. Like, people are saying, "Oh, bad time to get New Connell." Like, from a St Juniors point of view, they're looking to win a championship. You know,
you got to beat everybody.
You got to beat everyone. So if they're going to, like, if they can't beat Neve Connell on Saturday night, well then they're not going to win a championship. Be it a quarter final, semi final, or a final, it doesn't matter. Yeah. You know, St Juniors are there to win a championship. Beating Neve Connell is no good if they don't go on and win a championship. So you know they have to. You know, I know it's Neve Connell and they'll be ready for them, but whatever stage it is, Terry, you know, now's the time for our boys to, you know, stop talking, stop looking for excuses or making excuses or thinking about this or that. It's, you know, they've a good enough team, Terry. They're well prepared by Barry and Brendan Devaney and Cian Sharkey and them. They have all the preparation done. It's time now that they stood up on the field and did it. And
just hope they do, Charlie. 2 quick points. I hope it does go to penalties.
Oh,
but it doesn't go to penalties.
It could go to penalties.
Oh Christ, extra time penalties,
Yeah,
is that it?
it has to be decided, doesn't it?
It has to be finished.
decided.
Danny Doom.
I don't think it'd be a nice way for that type of game to
No,
finish.
you're right. I agree with
And
you,
the
Jesus.
second point,
I'll not be there for both the penalties.
the other six teams are quite happy that these two meet in the quarterfinals.
Well, it opens up the whole championship, Cherry. Like,
it does.
I would have always said, there's a few years ago, said, anyone asked me this year who's going to win the championship, St Junans is the only team that can beat Neve Connell. Neve Connell is the only team that beats St Junans. Now, because it's at a quarter-final stage, Cherry, it brings me back a wee bit on that statement, because some other team is going to get to a final, be it a Gweedore, a Glen Swilly, could be Kilcarrick and Michaels, and they will fancy their chances in the final, whoever will be, because they'll have come through. Some teams going to be in a county final without having to play St Junans or Kilcarrick to a final. They'll be sitting ready.
You could have a very one-sided championship then as well, John.
You could, Cherry, but it'll give them other teams a chance. So it's not just a foregone conclusion it'll be one of the big two. But
did John go for Units there, did he?
I did. I think he went.
just in case that wasn't clear.
I think he wasn't sure himself and he went for Units there. Listen, just before we leave the senior championship, the relegation playoff games, Rua very comfortable winners over Cloghaneely, and Glenfin squeezing through against St Knolls. So St Knolls and Cloghaneely now will battle it out to see who stays in senior football and who goes down to intermediate football. Right, the intermediate championship, Danny picked Milford and John did last week as well. It didn't happen. Congratulations, Danny. Good victory. Last 4.
Yeah, look, Charlie, for us it was a great victory, because like when you do this type of stuff here and you talk about your own team, people think you're talking your team down, the other team up. I was just being brutally honest last week about that game, that the form lines and the last couple of years would suggest Milford would be ahead of our lads. But like I said this last week that we felt good going into it. We've had a good year and we're on a nice wee run. I don't believe going into it that people thought we could win the intermediate championship, and I still think with 4 teams left that nobody thinks we can win the intermediate championship. I think most teams, 3 teams left, probably wanted to get us in the semi-final.
Does your team think they can win it?
Do you know what, Charlie? We haven't actually discussed winning the championship. That's been honest.
Taking it game by game.
Game by game, and that's not being a cliche. Last year, funny enough, we talked about where we're going to have to win the championship, and we got beaten the first game and we didn't make the quarter-final. So this year the boys didn't want to discuss it. They just said, look, we'll just play our games game by game, see where it takes us. Look, that win of the weekend will definitely be an injection of confidence, and we're going to this game of the weekend again under no pressure. And again, I'm not trying to talk Termon up, but if you look at the form lines going into it, Termon are unbeaten in the championship so far. We've lost 2 games in the championship. We've played Termon 3 times the last 2 years. We've lost every game against them. They've got promoted to Division 1 this year. And their team is full of players that have played either county minor, county under 20, or been up with Jim or previous managers in the county setup. Your Jamie Grants, like Ray McFadden was up there, Bobby McGettigan, Jack Alcorn, Darrell McDade, Enda McCormick. You can name them all off. There won't be many naming our lads. So that's the way we're going to do it.
They struggle to beat Red Hughes over the last 2 weekends, Danny.
Yeah, but Red Hughes bring a different game to you. They sit in deep, and I think Termon mirrored that a wee bit as well. So not everything was on the line in those games for Termon, if you know what I mean. They were kind of comfortable enough with the points difference and points they had on the board.
Well, last week was tricky.
It was tricky for them, and the last 2 games they've had would suggest that they struggle with teams who play often defensively, right?
Yeah.
But that's not our style of play. So we'll see how things play out on Saturday. But look, we'll go into it, Charlie, with nothing to lose, and that's being honest. Whereas Termon, they lost the semi-final last year with a last-minute goal to Downings.
That's right.
And I know they want to get back to the final, want to get back and win the championship. So look, we'll see what happens.
What do you think,
and
John?
one of the men that scored the goal, Danny's goal score the last day, was the man that he ruled out here last week in the pod.
I didn't rule him out. I said he didn't play.
Danny, so.
Well, I think you put on his place, John, about that, didn't you?
Can't believe a word Danny says.
No, I said he wasn't playing the week before.
Like a politician now.
I'll have to go rewind to see exactly what he said.
You'd have to fancy Termon, they are the favourites for the intermediate champion. As Danny says, they have the quality players. They're going well. Last year, I'd say, and even the last 2 years was a big disappointment for them when they thought they probably would have won the intermediate championship. I remember Donegal bet them over in Ardara 2 years ago. They were disappointed that night, Charlie. They were disappointed last year again, got caught by Downing. So I'd say they're fully, their mind's on winning the intermediate championship. Now they have to take it one step at a time. And as you said, a team like Red Hughes, it sits in and makes it hard for them. So maybe that's the template for Danny, although he's telling us now that he's not going to do that, but he might have to do that, and try and frustrate them and maybe try and nick a point here and there and keep it tight. But Termon have quality players, there's no doubt about it, and Darren McDade's doing a good job, or Keelan McDade. Is it Keelan? Darren's doing the scoring, and then the McCormick, and they have good players, Charlie. And them boys have played and got to an Ulster minor club final, which is a high standard. In fairness, they have a lot of quality. So it'll be a big ask for Niamh Warrior to come up to O'Donnell Park and beat Termon.
They haven't a great record in O'Donnell Park. Termon.
No, they haven't.
No, they haven't played there much, Danny.
Not in recent times. We played there. I can't remember last time. Dunlow 2 years ago in the quarter final.
Yeah.
And previous to that, it would have been back a number of years.
Yeah.
Like the big games are the semi-finals and finals get played in O'Donnell Park. We haven't been there since 2013.
Yeah.
This is our first. We won it back then.
Serious?
This is our first semi-final.
But you were senior since?
We were senior from up till 2017, back to 2018.
Oh, right. Yeah.
But it was quarterfinals after that. That's the first time.
Yeah. Termon favourites, but Niamh Warrior with a chance, John.
With a chance, Charlie. If they bring it, if they play, if they come with their A game and get a wee bit of luck here and there and they play well, but you'd be hoping that Danny would be hoping that Termon have an off day for that to happen. But Termon,
the 2 games he's lost, Danny, he's lost by a point or 2 only. So
you
lost 2 out of 4, but you only lost them by the skin of your teeth, a kick of a ball sort of thing.
Yeah. No, look, Charlie, we've been competitive in all our games all year, to be honest. Even in Division 2 against your 4 Masters, and now Termon beat us in the league in the Burn Road this year 3-7-9. That was probably our biggest defeat.
10 scores to 9. Not
but
bad.
we conceded 3 goals on the night. So, look, Charlie, you're in a semi-final. I'm not going to sit here and say we haven't got a hope. Of course we have. We're there on merit, like we deserve to be there based on what we've done. But Termon will be favourites.
Paddy McCarthy still playing for you?
Paddy's still playing.
Paddy's living out in Termon and managing Termon on the league. So a neighbour of my own.
Right, we'll move on to the other one then. Niamh Columba, who were beaten by 10 points by Termon on the opening day, through to the semi-final, where they'll take on Malin, who they've beaten earlier in the competition, I think by a point or 2 down in Glen. So Malin only picked up 3 points, Danny, in the groups out of 8, but only narrowly beaten in most of their games that they didn't win. And I think they obviously had 1 draw as well. Tight game last week against Montcrana, 2 late scores getting them through. So they've got through by the skin of their teeth, but they're through. And Niamh Columba have improved since that opening day as well.
They have, yeah. I went to watch Niamh Columba last Sunday just in case we met them in the semi-final. A journey to Carndonagh 6 days a week wasn't on my radar, to be honest. But I would have known plenty about Malin and Montcrana from playing them previously. Didn't see Glen all year, so I was impressed with Niamh Columba, if I'm being honest. Bundoran were without Jamie Brennan, and I think Jamie had a wedding in America and they wanted the game played on Saturday, and County Board didn't agree to it or whatever, so the game was played on the Sunday. Now, Glen did lose Philip Doherty to an injury. Looked like a serious enough knee injury after 5 or 6 minutes. If he's out, that's definitely a loss for them.
He's a big loss.
But Aaron Doherty's there. They've got Party Borden pulling the strings in the middle of the field. They've got good forwards. Young Shane Callahan's a very classy corner forward. Now, they play, they kind of mix it. I think this is going to could be a very defensive game at the weekend, because Niamh Columba set up defensively, but they also move from that defence into more attack, so they're flexible within their game plan. Malin are definitely defensive.
Their games have all been pretty low scoring games.
That's just the stall they've set out. It's kind of the stall they had last year as well. We talked about that in here, that they don't get enough scores and things. And even against Moncrana at the weekend, by the way, there's a massive crowd at that game apparently down in Carndonagh.
There was.
For an Inishowen derby, huge game. And even with the breeze in the first half, Malin only had a 2-point lead, but they never really come out of their shape. They believe in what they do in terms of holding their shape. And then in the second half, Moncrana looked like they were going on to win it, 2 points up, but never kicked on. I think they gave the ball away, maybe at a point up in injury time that allowed Malin a chance to equalise, and then Malin won the next kick out and scored the winning point. I think it's 6th or 7th minute of injury time. So look, for Malin, it was a massive, massive victory. Massive victory to beat Moncrana in a quarter-final. And we said this before, last year was all about momentum. That win now has given them a serious injection of confidence and momentum. And they will come to Letterkenny on Sunday fully believing that they have the game to beat Niamh Columba. But I do believe Niamh Columba are better than they were last year.
Yeah. Even without Philip Doherty?
He's going to be a loss.
Yeah,
he's going to be a loss.
Out, but as you said,
it looked like a serious enough injury if he's out.
Malin as I say, only 3 out of 8 points, John, but they only lost games by the narrowest of margins.
And the same in Dersham on Charlie, they were competitive from other
very
games.
competitive.
They're real scrappy, aren't they? Like they don't, make it easy on themselves, but they like that fight and they like to make it hard for themselves, and they'll go to the wire, Charlie, and they will not give up. And you can never question their
Glen have
commitment.
been disappointing in semi-finals.
They have,
recently, haven't they?
Yeah, they got beat at a few at O'Donnell Park, and O'Donnell Park's not a great hunting ground for them. No. Malin Malin bet through with St Julian's in the league this year in O'Donnell Park in Division 1, so that's something maybe that they can hang their hat on. But Malin are they're just great survivors, Charlie, at tight games, and hanging in there when you think maybe they don't have enough quality up front or they're not going to get enough scores. They always seem to get a way to do it, and as Danny said last week, they'll come with big support to O'Donnell Park. Great support once they get to a semi-final or final, and they'll bring big support. Leave Columba will bring good support too, but I would fancy Malin, Charlie, that especially if Philip Doherty's out, it's going to be a big loss for Niamh Columba, and Malin will just make it so hard, and they'll, as Danny says, they'll back themselves, they'll hang in there, and Do
you think Malin will do it, Danny?
I always go back to my own experience of being in a situation where you're trying to get back to a final. Malin definitely are hurting, Charlie.
Yeah.
There's definitely hurt there. They lost a league final at O'Donnell Park last year, last kick of the ball. They lost a county final there last year.
Yeah.
They come again this weekend up against the Columba team who lost into the final 2 years ago. What I saw from the Columba the weekend, I was impressed with them, but I didn't get a sense that they went for the jugular against Bundoran when they could have. They could have killed Bundoran a lot earlier, and they end up Bundoran came back a wee bit towards the second half. I think if they go at Malin more than they did against Bundoran, they could get joy with the likes of Aaron Doherty and Shane Callahan, boys like that, Lanty Malloy playing. But Malin's structure, Malin's desire, the support, everything, that win at the weekend might just be enough to get them over the line.
Yeah, okay. Intermediate relegation playoff games of the weekend. Rossa 11 points, Letterkenny Gales 1-7, so 11-10, very, very tight. And the other one was tight as well, with Fanet Gales beating Burt by 6 points to 4. So 2 low scoring games. It means Burt and Letterkenny Gales will battle it out to remain in the intermediate championship. The losers of that will go to the junior championship. Thanks again to our sponsor, Donaf Construction in Boston, Massachusetts. We appreciate Paul Freed's support. Junior A Championship quarter-finals, just to finish off with, lads. There was victories for Niamh Padraig Muff over Niamh Breed and St Mary's Convoy over Urris, and that leaves us with a semi-final lineup of Carndonagh against Convoy and Niamh Ultan against Muff. The top 4 teams from the 2 groups, or the top two teams from each group, have made it to the semi-finals. So, John, that's good to see. Yeah. And obviously we have the best 4 teams left in the championship.
Best 4 teams left in the championship, and I suppose maybe
Carndonagh against Convoy.
The difference from last year, from Carndonagh's point of view, is Conor Doherty's playing. Or Conor O'Donnell, is playing. He's probably making a big difference to them. So that's good for them, Cherry, and it's good. That's probably why they're in the semi-finals and probably fancying their chances. Lawrence McMullen's there a long time with Convoy. Yeah. A bit of a yo-yo team.
I thought Convoy would have won it last year, and they lost in the semi-final, didn't they?
That's right.
I think they lost in the semi-final last year. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, just on the Carndonagh one, I obviously working up there.
Yeah.
They've got their 2 teams into semi-finals,
the
reserve team as well, and they've good numbers of training, and they've more than Conor O'Donnell.
Yeah.
They've good player like Cian Doherty's a good player, Ryan Kellevy's fit's a good player. They've plenty about them. I fancy them strongly to win their semi-final against Convoy. Now, I haven't seen anything of Convoy, so I'm a wee bit in the blind on that, but I know what Carndonagh are going to bring, and I think Conor O'Donnell is such a significant presence anyway. That'll be hard to curb him.
Yeah.
And then the other semi-final,
Niamh Ultan have been thereabouts, haven't they, the last couple of seasons?
Yeah, they have. And Niamh Ultan beat Niamh Padraig Muff in the championship up in Niamh Ultan, 4-12 to 2-7 or something. It was a bit of a shock result at the time. So that'll give them big confidence going into this. But we would have played Muff as well this season. I think Muff are a decent, more than decent team with Keelan McColgan driving them, big Kevin Lynch at full forward, Johnny Toy. They have a good crop of players. And then, of course, the sad news of young Evan Craig, who passed away last week.
That's right.
Was one of their players. Yeah, he only got ill in the last 12 months. So they've kind of made that a kind of a mission statement playing for him, which doesn't always work.
No, exactly.
But I would fancy probably Muff and Carndonagh to make that final.
Do you agree with that, John?
I would.
Okay.
Although I wouldn't know much about Muff or Niamh Ultan in fairness, but I think Carndonagh will have too much for Convoy.
Those 2 semi-finals are on Saturday. Carndonagh against St Mary's Convoy and Burt at 1:30, and at 5 o'clock in Convoy it's Niamh Ultan against Niamh Padraig Muff. So a big weekend to look ahead to, lads, and we'll be back next week to review it, and who knows who'll be in the semi-finals of the senior championship. Will Danny O'Donnell's Niamh Murrah be in the final of the intermediate? and which of the junior sides will be in the final as well, those 4 that we mentioned. Thanks to Tommy Conway here in Full Tilt Studios for his dedication to us, keeping us right here when we come in to record. And of course, thanks to Donegal Construction in Massachusetts for their support. Paul Fried, a Norris man, will be watching with interest this weekend again, I'm sure, what's happening in the championship. Thanks for joining us, and we'll be back next week. For now, goodbye.
The Donegal Sport Hub Donegal Daily Championship Podcast.